early mortality because in China and other places, I saw it before 30 days. But in fact, it can occur at any size. At any size, the shrimp ingests enough toxin to kill it. Now, a small shrimp requires less toxin. A big shrimp requires more toxin. Okay, next. The toxin is produced in the vibrio, and therefore the ecology of the vibrio does matter. All right, we always want to talk about infections of the shrimp. You know, for 3 years I talked about infections of the environment, and everybody got angry with me and said I didn't know what I'm talking about. I'm still talking about infections of the environment. So, Fuji in China 2010, this represents all the CPPL sales. So I have a good record of failures. Basically, failure rates go up when the temperatures get hot. And when the temperatures get lower, failure rates go down. Experimentally, I can show more toxin and more growth of the bacteria with temperature effects. This is the real world. Same way with salinity. If I look at Thailand, different salinity regimes, basically where we have low salinity, we have low failures, and where we have high salinity, we have high failures. So this is plus 30, and this blue is 0 to 10, almost no failures at low salinity. Experimentally, can also show the same thing. If I challenge at low salinity or grow the bacteria at low salinity, they don't grow very well. In fact, they don't grow at all below 4 or 5 ppt. Next. Aphids is about the environment. Low diversity encourages aphids. Now this is a picture from a Chinese pond that's ready to stock. I think this was probably 2010. If chlorine and killing everything prevented aphids, would China be dead? Would Vietnam be dead? Would all the farms in Thailand that use chlorine be dead? Chlorine was not an answer for aphids. If it was, we wouldn't have a problem today. High diversity discourages aphids. Aphids, if we want to get ecological, it's an opportunistic bacteria. It goes in where other things are not. It's not very competitive. If I create a very competitive environment, aphids has a hard time to grow. So, rule, low diversity, encouraging. High diversity, discouraging. Okay, next. Aphids thrives in low diversity, opportunistic environments. This is 2010. Okay, maybe this was Vietnam, not China. Lots of blue-green algae. Blue-green are another opportunistic organism. Now, when I started seeing this in 2010 in China and Vietnam, I'm thinking to myself, I remember growing up in shrimp farming, and we had diatoms and we had greens. I never saw blue-greens before in any large amount, but in China and Vietnam, it was all blue-green. We lost the greens, we lost the diatoms. Why? I didn't know at the time, and that's why initially my first hypothesis, this was aphids. Filamentous blue-greens that I found everywhere in China and Vietnam. And later, when it hit Thailand, the filamentous blue-green came along with it. If we look at the zooplankton, we find rotifers now. The copepods are gone. Copepods are your mature organism, and rotifers are your opportunistic organism. We have created pond environments full of opportunists, when in fact we need to be encouraging the mature organisms that don't allow opportunists into the environment. Next. Okay, now I started, and I'm doing my presentation. I sit at my desk and I said, what questions would I want to answer? You may not want the answer to these questions, so come up with your own questions. But what is the agent? I think we all know the agent. It's a natural insecticide. It's in a plasmid. It's in a Vibrio carrier. The Vibrio is a carrier of the plasmid producing a natural insecticide. And yes, now that I know where to look, I can find aphid strains everywhere. I just go to a pond, I scrape out the stomach, the chitin area of the stomach, and I come up with a new strain of aphids. All strains, though, have the plasmid and the natural insecticide. Next. Histology has more than one lesion type. Now, this has caused a problem because this is the definitive defining lesion. It only has a lifetime of a couple of hours in the shrimp. It's transitory. And so if you don't do a lot of shrimp, you will find one of these lesions and come up with a diagnosis, serious vibriosis. Okay, so there's a lot of lesions that aphids is responsible for, but the defining lesion is really very transitory. You have to look at a lot of shrimp with a commitment to finding it. Next. How to test for aphids. Now, again, we're dealing with a PCR, so we need a certain amount of DNA. And when you have a low amount of aphids in the stomach or on the chitin or wherever you're testing, you get PCR negative. If you want, and this has been the problem in places in the Americas and other places where they keep telling you, oh, we don't find it, we don't find it, we don't find it. You got to amplify it. And when you start amplifying, you find it in a lot of places. So we have to amplify it, enrich it. And so, if I go to a place, I will take the head or the stomach and I'll put it in enrichment medium. I'll leave it there sometimes for 2 days before I PCR it. And you'll be surprised how much more aphids we find. Okay, next. How does it move? Well, in the beginning, it was just our normal routes. This is somewhat still speculative, but I believe it moves in, of course, rootstock, post-larvae, frozen shrimp. Yes, you can revive it from a frozen shrimp. You get non-culturable forms in frozen shrimp, but if you give it time, it comes back to life. Maturation feeds, zooplankton in the coastal waters. Yes, I can go off the coastal waters with my plankton net. I can collect zooplankton, and it will test positive. Birds, not sure about this one because, again, the pH of the stomach is such that it may destroy it, but we certainly can get PCR positives out of bird feces. And the air, I put a question because I was pretty sure it would move through the air, but I have looked. I have concentrated air for days and days and days, and I haven't been able to find it in the air. I'm not convinced it's not there, but I haven't been able to find it. Next. Can the agent be excluded? Now this is my favorite picture because it's so beautiful of biosecurity old style. This is for white spot. And it was very, very good with white spot. But aphids, this doesn't work. You can put up the best biosecurity with aphids, it's not going to leave the system. So, answer no. We have to come up with other ways of dealing with this. Next. Okay, questions on the ecology, physiology. All right, we already went over a lot of that. But where is the toxin? It's in the environment. Yes, I can find the bacteria attached to the stomach of shrimp, but it's on all the shrimp. Whether they're dead, healthy, or alive, I can find aphids in the aphids environment on just about all the stomachs. That doesn't seem to be the answer. What are the factors? Okay, I spent 2 years doing factor after factor, everything I could think of. Factor, salinity, temperature, nutrients, trace minerals, pH, every ecological microbial factor I basically tested with aphids to see what factors are important. And overwhelming, the factor that's important is food. You've got to control the food of the bacteria. And then what are the factors that produce toxin? Factors that grow the bacteria and factors that produce toxin can be different. So there's some factors that are important in growing bacteria biomass, and there's other factors important in creating higher toxin levels. Separate conditions. Next. So I have a whole bunch of stuff, but I took them all out because I'd be here for hours. But I put what I consider some of the more interesting ones in. Accumulation of toxin in leftover feed. So I created an artificial environment where I just put a little bit of aphids, 10 to the 1 bacteria. 10 to the 1 do nothing for anything. And then I put the pellets in there for different hours, and the longer time the pellet is in this level of 10 to the 1 aphids, the more it killed, the higher the toxin level. And now I can take these pellets out and actually test them with ELISA and quantify the toxin at different hours. What this tells you is when I feed a pond, if that feed is left over and the shrimp eats that leftover feed, you're putting the shrimp at high risk, especially if there's aphids in the environment. Now, I take this and I use real time. I've got ELISA now. Real time was all I had when I did this. So then I look at the DNA count, proportionate, and as the time goes up, the real-time copies go up of aphids on the feed, and then this is proportionate to how fast they die. This basically created the whole new mindset for me of really the key to solving aphids. The other thing is, Van Emme will eat old pellets. I remember in the Americas, we used to feed one time a day. Throw out a whole bunch of pellets in the middle of the pond, and the shrimp would nibble on it all day long. Van Emme don't care. Now, Monodon care. They won't eat bad food. Van Emme, they eat anything. Next. So, important question, what is biosecurity? I've already told you it's not exclusion, but limitation or control of the pathogen numbers. Now, the proof of that is what we call quorum sensing. If I challenge at different levels of bacteria, I really have to go over 10 to the 4 to create a response. At low levels of bacteria, we don't really get a toxin response. So all I have to do is control the numbers. I don't have to be absolute exclusionary. Next. Now this gets too complicated, but I'll give it a try. High dose. This is from the environment, okay? If it starts sloughing like this, recovery, I say unlikely here, it ain't gonna happen. It's gonna die. But if it's from the stomach and it gets a low dose, now stomach, if I go into a pond, I get all these readings, the real-time readings from the stomach, and the shrimp are like this, they're totally healthy. But every shrimp has relatively pretty good numbers of aphids in it. But it's not enough toxin to create this. This has got to come from the environment, ingestion. This, basically every stomach that you go into a pond, healthy or not, you're going to find some aphids. Okay, next. Kind of already went through this. We're not creating any size yet. Next. Now, I was in South America, and I won't tell you which country because they're not supposed to have it. But one country showed me their data, and they had mortality peaks. And they go, why do you think we're getting these peaks in mortality? Well, these peaks in mortality corresponded with an event. High molting activity. The molts carry the aphids. And when you have that high molting activity, you can actually pick up higher incidences of mortality. Next. What does tolerance mean, and is it genetic? $1 million question. This is Monodon. Probably recognize it because I still understand Malaysia likes Monodon. And I understand that Malaysia actually gets pretty good results with Monodon, when in fact in some places Van Emme had not done well. So, is this tolerant? Is this genetically tolerant to aphids? So I ask that question. I take this into my challenge center, and I challenge it with an equal amount of toxin or aphids under the same conditions as I do Van Amy, and guess which one dies more? This one. This one is a lot more sensitive to Apex toxin. But in the pond, it doesn't seem to die. Now how can that be? Well, I've come up with a term, don't know if it's real or not, but it's my term. Behavioral tolerance means it avoids the toxin in the environment. Monodon loves fresh stuff. They don't like garbage. They don't like sludge. They don't like old feed. They don't like the places you find the Apex toxin. And so they don't die. If Monodon die, it'll be in the first 30 days, usually as a result of poor quality PLs from the hatchery. But if you get past 30 days, Monodon's good to go. Behavioral tolerance, not genetic. Well, maybe that's genetic. They don't like bad food. Next, real genetic tolerance. Is there such a thing? The answer is yes. And it's really interesting. You know, I mean, after this DSO conference, I think in the food safety session, somebody said something about something, and I couldn't sleep the next night, and I started Googling things. And I learned a lot more about tolerance than I ever knew before. There's a lot of good insect models on tolerance. And so, tolerance and resistance are very different. And we can create tolerance. And we are creating tolerance. And yes, it's even heritable. Before you can use the term genetic, you must show heritability, in my opinion. This is basically a phenotypic response over 1, 2, 3, 4 generations. And we can see a phenotypic response to tolerance development of the toxin. I'm not looking at this as a vibriosis. I'm looking at this as a toxicosis. I want real tolerance to the toxin. And again, I look at here, this is like one batch of families.